guys, so today I'm actually going to do an updated acrylic toe tutorial. This time we're actually just going to focus mainly on shaping and my acrylic application, and I will go back and make specific videos if you guys comment down below any specific questions or tutorials you guys need in reference to doing acrylic nails or acrylic toes. So firstly, I always start off by prepping the nails. I push the cuticles back. I make sure I use my sanding band and a couple of cuticle bits just to get that dead cuticle off the nail. I did not include that in this video just because this is more so an application video. But if you guys want a full in-depth tutorial of prepping, I definitely can give you that. Right before I lay my acrylic, I always start by doing 1 coat of dehydrator and 2 coats of primer. I start first with the Young Nails primer on all 10 toes, and then I go back in with the No Lift, and I sort of give that a couple seconds to dry, and I go right in with the acrylic. Okay, so here I am just making sure my brush is nice and moist because I do try to work with one bead. You don't have to. I just, for the sake of how I do acrylic toes, I try to use one bead, and here I am just drying that bead out just a little bit so I can make sure that it's not all runny. And then I place the acrylic on the toe and I let it sit for a couple seconds, and then I start to try to work it. When you start to work it, I typically sit it towards the middle or maybe a little towards the cuticle, but not right at the cuticle. And then I start to try to work it back into that cuticle area, making sure I have a nice, clean, flush application because that's what's going to help you most with your retention. And then I like to go in and make sure I'm getting that really square look by dragging it down on the sides, but also making sure that I'm keeping the top of the toenail very flat. You don't want really thick, bulky toenails because that also can mess up your retention. You'll also notice I keep jabbing at the underneath of the toenail as I'm trying to make my free edge look nice and crisp, and that is because you want to make sure that any acrylic that is hanging over the nail, so any of your free edge, is not actually sticking down or encased to the skin, because when the toenail starts to grow out, if you did have acrylic touching the skin, you're gonna have an open area for water or bacteria to seep into, which will cause greenies, which is a fungal spot on your client's toes, and you don't want that. So here I am starting my second toe, and I'm just going to grab a small bead and tap it on my paper towel, just trying to make sure I have a workable bead but not a super runny bead because you don't want the acrylic to be all over the skin. And then we're going to do the same thing as the big toe. You just want to place it kind of towards your middle so you're not flooding the cuticle as soon as you place the bead, and then you want to go ahead and try to push that bead back until not even into. You want to go close to the cuticle area, and then you want to make sure you're tucking those sides in, tucking that cuticle area in, just making sure everything is super flush and flat and neat. And then I'm going to start to work on my free edge, making sure I get a nice and square free edge. So on this third and fourth toe, you're actually going to see me do something a little funny that I usually don't recommend to beginners. But since I have been doing acrylic toes for a while, it's kind of the only way I work most times. So I'm actually going to place my bead down on the third toe, and I'm going to sculpt out kind of how I want her toenail to look. And then I'm going to move on to the fourth toe, and I'm going to let that middle toe set just a little bit. And I'm going to go back to the third toe and finish sculpting how I want that free edge to look. And then I'm going to jump back to the fourth toe and finish that up. And I find that a lot of times with my smaller toes, for some reason, with my third and fourth toe, I always kind of have to give it a second to set because I have a lot of clients with really small toenails on their third and fourth toes. So I kind of like to jump back and forth and give them time to set a little bit after I place the original bead. And then once it has set a little bit, I have more room to manipulate it. So now you can see that I'm jumping back to the third toe and I'm just cleaning up that free edge a little. It was already pretty much shaped, but I just wanted a more square look, so I jumped back to it. And I'm going back to the fourth toe and I'm just going to clean that up and make sure everything is tucked. Make sure I like how that free edge is looking. And then I'm going to move on to the pinky. So I put a small bead where I thought the toe could have been a little thicker, and now I'm just going to move on to the pinky toe. So I'm a little out of frame, but you guys are going to have to forgive me just because I am new to this whole YouTube thing. But I am going to use a bead similar to the second toe on the pinky toe. And the reason for this is because a lot of my clients' toenails are shorter lengthwise, but longer widthwise. So I like to use a bigger bead just to make sure I'm covering from sidewall to sidewall and to make sure I give it enough thickness and enough length just to be semi-even to the rest of the toes so that you can see that there is a toenail and a square shape there. So here I am showing you my big toe application again, and I really wanted you guys to see how I still am only using one bead, but I do go straight in to push it back towards that cuticle area, and I continuously manipulate my free edge, but I'm also making sure that I push underneath the free edge to make sure that I'm getting that acrylic up off of the skin so that once I start filing, I can go under there and make sure that the nail is completely clean. Now I'm going to show you guys how I shape after application, and we're actually going to fast forward through this first foot because shaping gets real in my chair. You're not going to leave with no unshaped, unsquare toes. So you're going to see my head quite a bit in this clip just because I like to get really close to make sure that I'm looking at the toe from all sides and all angles just to make sure that I am giving my clients that perfect square look. Okay, so now I'm going to show y'all the other foot, and we're going to start by pulling the acrylic slightly away from the skin, and then we're going to start by filing the side walls. After that, I'm going to go and file the top of the nail to make sure that I'm getting that toenail as flat as possible, just so that it isn't bulky in the shoes and that it isn't threatening to my retention. Now I'm going to go ahead and file the top of the nail, some more, and then I'm going to go ahead and file the free edge. And a pro tip that I learned not too long ago is you want to always start by filing your acrylic toes facing your client, and before you move on to the next toe, you want to try to either bend the toe or you want to turn toward your client, and you want to be back facing your client so that you can see the toenail from your client's view, just to make sure it's straight, because we can get caught up in our point of view, but because you are facing your client, you aren't always filing straight from their point of view. And then I'm going to go ahead and speed the rest of this up because it's kind of just the same spiel. If you guys want an in-depth tutorial on shaping, I can definitely give you that. You just need to comment below. Here I'm going to show you guys how I've shaped the nails or seal the nails with my e-file. And you see I'm holding my client's skin back just to make sure I'm not bumping or cutting their skin. And you are going to go across the cuticle, and you want to make sure you're getting in all the nooks and crannies to make sure that that application is sealed, to make sure you have that acrylic completely closed off. You want to make sure there's no gaps, no little pocket, no anything that water or any type of substance can sit up under, because that is how you get greenies, and we are not going for that. Now you're going to see me go up under the toenail, and I'm just making sure that when I was pressing the acrylic up, that all of that is flat and that I didn't deform the acrylic in any way. And of course, you want to make sure you're going and doing this to all 10 toes. You want to remember to keep that skin pulled back and try to get in all of those nooks and crannies, and make sure you touch up the underneath of that free edge. If you guys want an in-depth tutorial of how I e-file my toes when I do them, I can definitely do that for you. You just need to comment below. So we top coated and dried off camera, and then I'm just cleaning up the toenails a bit here. When I finish doing acrylic toes, I always like to wipe the toes with an alcohol acetone mixture, and then I make sure I get all the dust off the nails, add a little bit of lotion for moisture, and then I like to go around all 10 of the toes. I go around the cuticle area, and then I go up under the free edge on the skin, and I put cuticle oil just because when you're filing, you can touch their skin, and it does make their skin look a little dry. And so I just like to moisten that right on up just so I can take the pictures. And once I show you guys that, I can show you the finished look. And here's the finished look. You can see from the other foot how flat and nice these toenails are. And here's a closer look at the big toe. You guys can like and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you again next time.
Just be my lover.